Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. JACALYN KERBECK. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello and welcome to the Persistence Payoff Show. We're here on USA Global TV and Radio. I'm your host, Kimberly SCHAFER. Persistence has always been an important part of my life since I was young, but has taken on an especially important meaning in the last few years. I've started my second chapter in life as a first-time inventor and entrepreneur. I'm the inventor of the Ring Thing, which is a waterproof patented ring holder. And certainly persistence has been a critical element of my moving forward with that and getting the success that I've had. One thing that I've learned, especially during this show, is that persistence can take many different forms. It can be establishing a goal and persisting in getting that goal accomplished, whatever form that takes. There can also be some complications that come into it or added features where sometimes there might be a shorter way that's easier and takes less effort and lets you get to your goal more quickly, but it's not as authentic. And so if you choose to stay authentic and stick with the longer and perhaps harder route, you still get your goal, but in a way that's authentic and you feel good about it. I think that our guest today is a perfect example of this. Alison McBain is an author who writes human-created books, not using AI in any form. Her books have won more than 13 awards, including the Forward Indies, and her latest novella, Duel, took third place in the 3-day novel contest. When she's not writing for herself, she's a ghostwriter, and she's written more than 24 books. She also is an award-winning editor for celebrity authors, as well as New York Times bestselling authors. In 2024, she started a really fascinating project called Author versus AI. She started this about a third of the way into the year, and the goal was to write a book a week without using AI in any form. And she did that. She wrote 34 books in 2024, which I think is quite remarkable. When she's not writing or helping other people with writing or editing, she's the associate editor of a magazine called Scribes Micro. And she also loves to draw on the walls of her home with the assistance of her children. She lives in Alberta, Canada, and I'm delighted to have her here with us today. So please welcome Alison McBain.
Oh, thanks so much for having me here. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to have you on. I feel like there's so many questions that I have to ask you. I'm fascinated, and I really respect what you're doing in terms of sticking with human-generated books instead of using AI. And I thought maybe we could start with your project last year of Author versus AI and writing a book a week without using any AI. Can you just tell us about the project and what your inspiration was?
Well, when I first started conceiving of the project, that was when AI was just hitting the scene. And, I don't know if you remember the writer's strike in Hollywood. And that was one of the things that they were concerned about AI taking over their jobs. So it was on the tip of everyone's tongue. And of course, nowadays, 2 years later, this AI is omnipresent. It's in every aspect of our lives now. And it's still the conversation piece around the water cooler. So I started this project because I wanted to inspire writers, because I have a lot of conversations with writers as an editor, as a writer myself. And a lot of them were saying, well, if AI is just going to take over my job and write all the books for us, why should I? And I wanted to show that, human creativity is still important, and it's still important today, even years down the road. And it can't be taken over by the terrible machines. They're not going to come for our jobs. That we still have stories to tell.
Yes. Yeah. I totally respect that and agree with you. And I'm curious, when you were doing this and writing a book a week, at the beginning of the project, did you map out all of the topics for the 34 weeks, or did you, how each week, how did you decide what to write about?
Oh, definitely. I had, well, the project was only for 2024. I took about 6 months of preparation ahead of time to do all the preparation. So chapter by chapter outlines, character sketches. So each week, all I had to do was sit down and figure out which book that I wanted to write that week. But I had all of it mapped out ahead of time. So all I had to do was write.
Wow. I think that's remarkable and good for you. I mean, that's a very intense year that you had. And do you feel at the end of it, do you feel that it accomplished its goal?
Definitely. It started a lot of conversations, sort of like the one that you and I are having today. Um,
Mhm.
so I think it did. I had other authors say that it was inspiring and that they will continue writing because of it. So I think, if I just get one, you know, wannabe writer to put pen to paper, I think that I've accomplished my goal, and I did.
Yes. And can you tell, you do editing as well as ghostwriting. And when you're editing, can you tell if the person who's giving you the material has used AI to generate that material?
Definitely, and especially in my job as a publisher for our magazine, Scribes Micro. Even though our guidelines say no AI created work, we still get those. Some people try to sneak them in, and I would say 99.9% of the time you can tell right off the bat. The thing about AI writing, I don't know if you've seen any of it yourself. It tends to be more repetitive. It tends to not have good dialogue. It tends to be a lot of summary. So while some of it, can pass for writing tasks such as like writing advertisements, is great for that. For creative writing, it really needs the human element. It needs that subtlety for people to really enjoy the story, I feel.
Yeah, that makes really good sense. And can you tell us about your novella duel and the 3-day novel contest? Is that as it sounds that you had to write a novel in 3 days?
Yeah, it's more like a novella. It really is.
Mhm.
So most of the books that end up placing in the contest are about between 22 to 30,000 words, I would say. Um, and so when I conceived of this project, a friend of mine who's an editor said, "Well, have you heard of this thing, 3-day novel contest?" I was like, "No, I've never heard of it." But apparently it's been going on for decades. And he encouraged me. He said, this would be a good start to your project. So why don't you give it a try and see if you can actually do it? So it takes place over the Labor Day weekend, and you sign up for the contest online, and you do all your writing at home. But you literally have those 3 days of the Labor Day to produce something that is slightly coherent, hopefully. And my story actually, and I was very happy. This is my first year entering. I was very happy for my story to get so far, and it was very personal to me too. It was a fiction story, but it was about a mom who moves from the United States to Canada with her daughter, who just happens to be a ghost. So it had a bit of a supernatural element to it too, but it sort of paralleled what I did about 3 years ago. I moved from the U.S. to Canada, and I pulled a lot from my own experience, and so it was a very wonderful story to write.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds fascinating. And I suppose I can imagine that if you have a very limited period of time, you're just focused on getting it out. You can't let yourself get distracted by anything else, which, speaking from personal experience, that's one of the things that I struggle with. And so I can imagine with a time limit like that, you just have to get it done and focus on it. What a great, what a great contest.
It's fun. You
Um,
should try it. You should. It's a lot of fun.
I may actually. It's in my previous life, I was a research administrator at the university, and so I wrote grants a lot. So I'm used to science writing and very factual writing. And I have been very intrigued about what about just writing in a totally different genre and just giving that writing butterflies and flowers to me as opposed to just facts and numbers. So that's so that leads me to one of my questions. So for me as a grant writer, I would just go back over things endlessly, like you know, just trying to get every sentence correct. And that can be a very painful exercise. And there's a certain point where it's just of no return. And I'm curious for you, when you're writing books, do you run into that? Or when you finish it, are you able to just say, okay, I'm done. I'm going to let this go and I'm not going to continue to go back over it?
I feel like most writers and especially editors also are perfectionists at heart. So yeah, it is. I agree with you. It is hard sometimes to to let it go and not make that final revision. I don't know. I've learned, especially through my work as a ghostwriter, where you do have to meet deadlines quite stringently, that you have to aim for that deadline. So like, yeah, there's a point where you just have to let it go, whether you want to or not. But I do, the longer I've been writing, the longer I sort of edit as I go. So my first drafts tend to be fairly clean compared to what they were like a decade ago, where I had to do a lot more revision. So I think it's just part of the biz. Any sort of job that you have, whether it's a writer or, you know, chef or musician, you know, you get more comfortable with your groove the longer you do it.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I'm curious to know, when you're doing ghostwriting or editing other people's work, do you find, are you also a part psychologist, because you're also dealing with whatever their story is and whatever their goals are? And so I'm curious how you balance that, you know, just with your writing skill.
Sometimes the ghostwriting, I tended to work more with publishing houses, and they needed a specific thing in a specific amount of time. So, you know, I was working with people who worked with authors every day. For the editing, sometimes I work with new authors who don't know exactly what goes into the editing process and what it's like to work with an editor. So sometimes it does take a bit more guidance, I would say, and patience. But one reason why I so like to work with new authors is because they always have a fresh perspective and they always are so wonderfully enthusiastic about their work, and it just makes me enthusiastic too. So for every, you know, whether you're working with a new writer, whether you're working with a more experienced writer who's been in the business for a long time, there's always, you know, things to look forward to, things that I learn every single time I work with someone new, and I love it.
How interesting. And I'm sure that you've inspired a lot of people, you know, just through your support and your encouragement. And I love, I love the part in your bio describing that you help people write in all genres, you know, how to write anything. And so can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, do you believe that people are uniquely gifted in certain areas, or do you believe that anyone could write in any genre?
I think anyone can write in any genre. I've done it myself, and I've worked with authors in all genres. And I think it boils down to the fact that a good story is a good story. And partly the reason why we separate stories into genres is more for marketing rather than just because an author only has to stay in their lane. So it's helpful to the bookstore, it's helpful to the publisher where to put that book on the bookshelf. But good stories are all around. So it doesn't matter whether it takes place, you know, on a spaceship or if it's, you know, deep in a cabin in the woods. It can be a wonderful story. It's the characters that make the story, not the genre.
Yeah, that makes really good sense. I'm curious to know how you began writing. Have you written since you were young, or is this something that really took hold later in life?
Oh, definitely since I was young. Since I can remember, I've always written stories. Sometimes to my own detriment, especially when I was doing it in a class, like in math class when we're supposed to be doing sums, I was writing little stories in the margins instead of instead of actually doing what I was supposed to. I got in trouble quite a bit for that. But yeah, it was something that I always loved, and I always knew I wanted to be a writer. Life took me on a couple detours along the way, so I didn't have my first book published until uh, a little bit less than 10 years ago, I think. But I've always been writing even when I wasn't publishing, and yeah, and I will continue to do so probably until I can't lift my hands anymore and write down stories. But yeah.
Yes. Well, and I saw that you in college that you majored in African studies, which is so fascinating. And did you also read a lot of African authors?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I love authors such as Nadine Gordimer. Um, uh, I'm blanking right now. Nguyen Mahfouz. I think he's a Nobel Prize winning author. But yeah, I always search out authors from all over the world because again, just like, there are wonderful stories in all genres, there are wonderful stories from all over the world. And, yeah, I wouldn't want to miss any of them. Of course I will because there are way too many books to read, but I'm going to keep on reading until I can't anymore.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I think that's beautiful. And do you see that same creativity in your children?
Oh, for sure. Oh my goodness. I actually just got back from my kids took an art camp down in Calgary, which is about 3 hours away from where I live. And yeah, they all want to be artists. They all have written stories. They do art. I love it. I love them being so creative. And I hope they continue to be creative for the rest of their lives. I feel like it just enriches your lives if you have something that, like, a creative outlet where you can express yourself in ways more than words. It's fabulous.
Yes. You also have an active blog. And for you, when you're writing blog pieces, how is that different than writing a book or a novella?
Well, it's more like what you were saying. Like it's sort of factual writing, like it's sort of reporting on what's going on. I don't tend to write super exciting blog posts, I guess. I guess I save a lot of the creativity for my fiction writing. But yeah, I like to sometimes interview other authors, artists, comic creators. So sometimes I'll have interviews on my website, but then a lot of it will just be like saying, "Oh, well, I just had a story published, or I just won this award," something like that. So, but it's very, it uses a different part of your brain. Like there's a lot of marketing around being a writer too. It's not just you write the words and send them off and you never see them again. No, you talk about your writing, you do the blog posts, you go on social media. There's a lot of material and events around the writing these days, I would say.
Yeah, that makes sense. And is there a lot of discussion in the writing community about AI? Are there people who feel that we should let AI take over more of the writing? Or do most writers feel the same way as you, that it's better to be authentic and have human generated books and stories?
Well, it's still something that is under discussion, very much so. There's a lot of writers who are very against it, because a lot of the reason why we write is because we love to write. We love stories. We love to read other people's stories. So that taking away that human element of it sort of defeats the purpose for a lot of us. But it is also a tool. AI is a tool, and it can be used like any other tool. It can be used as I mentioned earlier to write maybe ad copy. So if you're trying to think of one line to sell your books and put an ad on Facebook, it can be useful that way. Some people do use it for blog posts. Some people use it. I know one author who has plugged in his whole book into AI and asked it for a summary so that he can use that maybe for the back of his book or send it out to agents. So there are different ways that it can be useful to authors that doesn't, to me, and to other authors, doesn't compromise the integrity of a project, as long as you're not using it for the work itself. I think that is something that writers are starting to incorporate into their work, as long as they're not actually doing it to write the book itself.
Yeah, that makes sense. To use it as a support tool
Exactly.
rather than a primary tool.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's interesting. And how do you, when you move forward, like, are you working on a new book or novella right now? And as you look ahead to pieces that you will be writing, how do you find your inspiration? Is it just things that come up during life and you say, oh my gosh, I'm going to write a book about that? Or do you plan it out a little bit differently?
I generally plan it out. Again, a lot of it might just be for what a submission call is. I might gear something since I write in all genres. I'm constantly looking at, oh, you know what, I would like to write a story in this genre right now. Um, but some of it is, last year I wrote a lot of books. So this year is more a year of editing. So while I'm writing some short pieces and for magazines or submission calls, um, I'm less working on larger pieces other than editing my own work and getting all the books from before out there to publishers and contests and seeing where those take me.
Yeah. That makes sense that you need a little break because you're right. You did a lot of writing last year, 34 books. That's quite amazing. So, do you have a favorite genre or are they all equal?
Oh man, I have to say I do have a favorite genre, or maybe a couple favorite genres.
Mhm.
So I really love writing fantasy. There's something about it. Ever since I was a kid, I would devour all the fantasy books. Like I loved magic and dragons and unicorns, all of those things as a kid. And I sort of never outgrew the love of the fantasy genre. Now I do much more with it. Like I love urban fantasy. I and other world fantasy. So I can definitely delve into all the different aspects of it. But I'd say it has a special spot in my heart. I also like romance. And one genre that's really hot right now is romantasy, which combines the two. And I'm like, oh man, sign me up.
Oh, I love that word romantasy. That's
Exactly.
fantastic. That's a good yes. Yeah. And have you ever thought about turning one of your books or novellas into a movie?
Oh my God, I would love that. That would be fantastic. Or maybe a
Yes.
miniseries.
Mm.
My last book was an alternate history, and I feel like probably a movie wouldn't have enough time to sort of explain all the world building in it. But a whole TV series might not, might there might not be enough material for it. So like a miniseries, that would just be like maybe 5 episodes or something, would be fantastic. So yeah, I would love to see it. Of course, then you get in the whole discussion of like, well, who would play whom? Like,
Yes.
right? Which is sort of fun to imagine too.
Yeah, I could imagine that happening just with the diversity of your background and your work. Like you're a writer, but you're also an editor and a teacher and a ghostwriter. And so I could see those things all coming together really nicely to write something like a series or a movie that would draw from all of those areas.
Oh, that
So
would be fun. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
if anyone ever approached me and said, "Hey, we'd like to turn this into a movie," I'd be like, "Sign me up."
I'm ready. Yes.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you moved to Canada about 3 years ago. Do you find that that's had any impact on your work or your accessibility? Or now that so many things are done by Zoom and remotely, I could imagine it doesn't really matter where you live, but I'm curious to know if you found any difference in accessibility by moving to Canada.
Not especially actually. Before that, I lived in Connecticut, which is sort of, it's close to New York. It's I like to always call it a mecca for writers. There's so many writers, like, throw a stone, you're gonna hit a writer in Connecticut. Um, and so I had a wonderful community there, and I still, of course, stay in touch with many of them. It's a fabulous place. I love it. And so it was sort of starting a whole new adventure, and I don't think I would have done it if the pandemic hadn't happened. Like we all went remote. I was homeschooling my kids for a while, and it just felt yeah, and I'm sure other people can relate. It just felt really claustrophobic being there still. And I was born in Canada. I was like, you know what? If I was ever going to make a change, now is the time to do it. And so I moved to my home province, the province I was born in. And I just loved it from the get-go. There's such a wonderful and vibrant writers community here too. So it felt like just stepping from one wonderful, beautiful location to another. And I found my people, I found my writers, and artists. So like I feel like I really lucked out in where I ended up. But it is right now, everything is super accessible. You can be on Zoom, you can there are a lot of in-person things that have blossomed after the pandemic. People want to see each other. And yeah, I think it's, again, I like to describe the age we live in right now as sort of the golden age for publishing, because there's so many avenues to getting your work out there. There's so many, groups, literary conventions. Everyone really loves writers and literature. So I think it's wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds great. And it also sounds like what a great move, that you, and it's so interesting because so often we get those inner sort of whispers about, this is something I should do. And it's easy to ignore those. And it sounds like you really listened to that as being the right thing for you. And it's turned out really well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah, kudos to you for that. And I'm curious about editing. And it sounds like you do some very high profile editing with celebrities and New York Times bestselling authors. How did you add that to your repertoire to add to not to move from being a writer to also being an editor? How did that happen?
Well, it sort of went hand in hand. I like to say that I came by editing legitimately because my mom actually for years was a copy editor for a newspaper. So, when I was growing up, we always were corrected in our grammar when we spoke. If someone says, "How are you?" You don't say "I'm good." You say "I'm well." So I do say "I'm good" right now when that question is asked because it's in the vernacular. But yeah, so I grew up with very, very proper English, I would say. So it seemed like a natural step. So when I was younger, I started taking on smaller copy editing jobs, and it just sort of grew from there. I do enjoy editing. I do enjoy very much working with authors, especially new authors. Very exciting to work with. But I think my true love is definitely writing. But they sort of go hand in hand because I feel like anytime that I'm working with a client, whether, as you said, it's a New York Times bestseller or it's a brand new author who has never even thought about publishing, I learn something. And that's one thing that I really like. I learn something from everyone I work with, no matter what walk of life they're from.
Yeah. No, I think that makes really good sense. My father was a sociology professor, and so I grew up the same way where in his classes, if people made more than 3 typos in their papers, he would cut them down by a grade. And so
Oh
we
my
just grew
goodness.
up, yeah, we grew up very particular about our writing, and
Yeah.
that's helped me a lot, although it was challenging sometimes as a young person, but
Yes.
it worked out well. This show is focused on persistence, and I'm curious to know, in your own writing and as you work with others, what have you learned about persistence, and what role do you feel that plays in successful writing?
It is the key, I would say. I like to say that the only difference between a published writer and an unpublished writer is persistence, is not giving up. Because we all start out in the same place. Like when you start out writing, I don't think anyone, is born with a pen in their hand. First drafts are always not great. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to make it better. And it takes a lot of experience. It takes working with other writers, working with editors to actually produce a finished book. I'm guessing most people don't know how many hands actually go into producing a book. And it could be dozens. It could be dozens of people who, even though the author's name is the one on the title, there are lots of people involved behind the scenes. So essentially, you just have to believe in your work, and the first thing that you write is not always the way that is going to end up on the page. But you are your own best advocate as a writer. You are the one who loves your work the most as a writer. So you have to just keep on believing in yourself.
Yeah, those are it's great words of advice. And do you have a method for yourself, like for your own inner talk when you're writing a book or working on a project? Do you sometimes go down a rabbit hole of, this is awful, I'm not going to be able to finish it? And if you do, how do you talk yourself out of that?
Um, More so when I first started writing. I didn't know if some of my stuff was good. I didn't have an audience then. I didn't have people helping me because again, writing, the first part of writing is very solitary. It's you and your computer or you and your notebook. So you don't have someone saying, "Oh yes, this is good," or "Oh no, please rewrite this. This is terrible." Um, so just really uh, continuing and believing in what you're doing. And sometimes you'll write something and you'll be like, oh, this really sucks. You'll put it to the side, let it sit, maybe for a month, maybe for 2 months, maybe for longer, and then you come back to it. And you can look at it with fresh eyes, because one of the hardest things about editing your own work is really the fact that you're too close to it. So the only thing that I found that allows me to sort of like step back from my work is literally time, to step back, get some distance from it, maybe work on a different project in the middle, and then come back to it and be like, oh, okay, this part is good. This part needs work. And I can do this. I can finish this. So this is one reason why I like to work on a lot of projects. Why, even though I'm a fast writer, I might write something, let it sit, and then come back to it and start editing it.
Yeah, thank you. That makes really good sense. Very wise. It is true that I've had that happen also, where you read something 9 times and then you give it to someone else and they find 2 typos in it that you didn't even see because you've seen it that
Exactly.
many times. And so, yeah. Do you think that your project last year with the author versus AI has inspired other people to try the same? I mean, I think it's such an amazing initiative that you did. I get, it's a two-part question. Number one is, do you think that you'll do that again? And have you seen anyone else also try to do that?
I haven't seen anyone do 34 books. I had along the way, I did again talk to a lot of different authors, and they said that they were inspired to do something similar. Maybe not in a week, but a book in a week, but a book in a month, maybe, or like NaNoWriMo. So yeah, it definitely inspired a few people along the way, which I was thrilled about. I was thrilled to hear people let me know that, yes, you know what, I've never written a book before, but this has given me the impetus to try. And that's the most we can ever hope for.
Yes. Yeah. You have such great experience and insights. Do you also teach? Like, do you teach either in schools or at seminars or conventions? I just think you would be a wonderful instructor.
Oh, thanks so much. I've done workshops, I've done talks. I've never been a full-time teacher. My sister actually was for a number of years, and I come from a long line of teachers. So maybe it's something in the blood. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think your insights are really helpful and inspiring. So I could see that for sure. And do you do most of your writing at home, or do you find that, some people prefer to go to a coffee shop or go off to a retreat house to do their writing? Are you able to write anywhere, and do you have a favorite spot to write?
Well, I do have an office that I write in, and it's great because it's sort of separate from my house. So my kids know because I do write from home quite often. If mom's in the office, unless you're bleeding, probably don't disturb her. But yeah, I can write anywhere. I've written in coffee shops, I've written in groups, I've written, on the road sometimes, like, hotel rooms. So yeah, I'm happy. Once I sink into the story, I'm only in the story. It doesn't matter what my surroundings are.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. And do you get inspiration in the middle of the night sometimes and like get up and write, or are you able to hold that until do you have a designated time to write every day?
I love the mornings. Well, actually, most of my most of my writing schedule sort of parallels the school day because I have 3
Mm.
kids. So a lot of it is, okay, the kids go off to school, I sit at my desk, maybe have lunch, and then when they come home from school, well, I'm sort of done writing. That's about the time limit I got.
That would do it. Yeah, that would be a busy life with
Yeah.
3 children, and I love that you draw on the walls with them. I think that's fantastic.
Oh, it's so
So,
much fun.
yes. Well, we're nearing the end of our time, and I'm so enjoying talking with you. I wonder if you could tell us how people can connect with you and learn more about your work.
Oh yeah, definitely. I have tons of social media, but it's all on my website. You can find, including my email if you want to drop me a line. AlisonMcBain.com. That's Allison with one L. And so yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any questions about anything from this podcast that I didn't answer. Feel free to reach out. I'm happy to chat all the time.
Right. Wonderful. And can people find your books in most of the usual places, or is there a particular place that they should look for your books?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, they're on all the platforms.
Okay.
Order them from anywhere.
All right. Super. All right. And are there any last thoughts that you'd like to share before we wrap up?
Oh, definitely. I just want to say thank you so much for having me on. It was so lovely to speak with you. And yeah, I love the idea of persistence because it really is anything that will lead you onto the path of success, whether it's what I do as a writer and editor, but any sort of profession. You just have to believe in yourself, and that is the number one thing that I hope people take away from our conversation.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's beautiful and very powerful. So thank you. I'm coming away inspired from our conversation. So I appreciate that. Yes. Thank you so much. And I'll definitely be looking out for your next books.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I end every show with a quote about persistence. And usually the quote fits very well with the conversation, even though I don't know ahead of time exactly how the conversation will go or what we'll be covering. And so today's persistence quote is similar. I think it fits perfectly with our conversation. It's from Angela Duckworth, who said, "Success is the result of persistence, not perfection." And I think that's absolutely true and fits really well with what Allison was saying as well. What an inspiring conversation. So thank you, Allison. If you'd like to reach me, you can find me through a couple of different ways. My website is ringthing.com. That has all of my contact information, and you're welcome to reach out to me through there. My email is kimberly@ringthing.com. And I would love to hear from you about any thoughts about the episode, any suggestions that you have for guests, any feedback that you have. All of it is welcome. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me. We're here on USA Global TV and Radio every other Tuesday at 12 o'clock Pacific time. And I would just like to thank USA Global TV and Radio and also Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, the founder of the platform, for giving us this opportunity. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you next time.
USA Global TV and Radio, home of the YouTube Silver Creator Award, proudly presents Just the Thing for Your Ring, introducing the patented Ring Thing, your premium personal ring holder to keep your ring safe, nearby, and avoid loss.
The Ring Thing just got smarter. Add your logo and an NFC tag that opens to your website with one tap. Waterproof, inner padding, and now a forever business card.
Just the thing for your ring. Scan the QR code seen here to learn more about Ring Thing or place your order. Follow Ring Thing on Instagram at ring_thing_ or go to our website ringthing.com.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dies. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. JACALYN KERBECK. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.